we want to go into the big talk. This big talk is not because of time, but the content. We have in the house Mr. Marvel Essien, an Organizational Development Expert. And we are here in furtherance to our stock taking and agenda setting for Akwa Ibom without oil. This is the 6th series on that. And today we are looking at how to improve internally generated revenue in Akwa Ibom State through strategic policies. Even if you're going to spend 10 minutes to deal with this and then to let you have the understanding of the tax policy, take it as our gift to humanity. We are also going to host Marvel Essien on our podcast where we'll take time on these issues. We are here on radio to just give tidbits to show the world that you can spend 1 hour on radio and the value will be worth its weight in gold. My brother, fine looking, these beards makes me feel like keeping beards. You're looking wonderful.
See you on the other side. I've never been interviewed by you.
It looks strange.
Very, very.
Oh, sorry about that.
Always on the same side.
Mpoma change. Actually, Mpo change. Since 2010, we started this as a magazine. 2021, we bought airtime on radio. We've been doing this, social education and enlightenment.
It's a fantastic
and then
job.
Dealing with issues that some others may never want to try. Because of time. Please, let's hit the nail on the head. For instance, the 2024 budget of Akwa Ibom State, from what has been made available from MBS, we saw that the governor's office and the deputy governor's office had 41 billion and almost 2.9 billion. We put that together, almost 43 billion as the budget for that office. 2, the IGR as a 2023 generated IGR was just 43 billion, the highest, which means our IGR cannot even fund the 2 offices. How do you do with salaries? Supposing we have problem at the federal level at any time. So our agenda here is to see what can we do? What ideas do we bring to the government to generate IGR? Rivers State ranks about 100 and something billion. Lagos State almost 1 trillion annually.
Yeah, over 1 trillion.
Oh, good. Please, we want the way forward.
Yeah, citizen. We need to. I don't know. Coming from how do I summarize this? It's quite saddening when you look. It's frightening.
Yes.
When you see the IGR of Akwa Ibom State stand where it is, but you also have to acknowledge that it has considerably improved over the years. That's the IGR of Akwa Ibom State, and I hope they are would still be improving on the IGR. Now, when we talk about government revenue, we want to recognize the various forms of revenue that should accrue to government.
Yes.
And basically, the tax revenue is basic to every government of the world. And of course, that is what governments rely upon heavily.
But who do you tax now that everybody, we are in mass poverty now? Mass hardship.
You tax money, you know how it is.
So go ahead.
So you see, you also would like to look at the non-tax areas. Let's talk about the investments.
Good.
Talk about the grants, all that may accrue from there.
Okay.
Now, I am carefully not going to look at the FAC, the Federal Allocation.
Yes.
Because we are running a federal system, and times may change, and when times changes, you may find that your state may not have enough revenue to sustain its administration, like the example you gave.
Yes.
You gave the deputy governor
and governor
office alone. And
let me add for you, there is a state in the country, the entire IGR of that state, they will need almost 300% to be able to service the office of the governor.
Alone.
In Nigeria, in fact, in the southern state, the southwest state.
For knowledge purpose, we would also like to recognize that most times these projections may not really go the way it is. For instance, when you place the projections against the implementation, against what is actually spent,
yes,
you talk about the performance of the budget itself. You find most governments, I talk about state governments in Nigeria, even the federal government, throwing up budgets that they don't really align
with realities.
You find that they may bring up a budget of 20 trillion, and at the end of the day, it was only 1 trillion that was spent. So whatever, we are going to use it as just looking at it as an example of what it is, because if you say the governor's office may be consuming 43 million, but that's both offices.
Yes, that's the budget. That was the budget proposal.
Yeah, that's the budget proposal.
Yes.
So the actuals may not be so.
Absolutely.
So we recognize that.
Yes.
But as a projection, it's not very far from the truth that this is what is obtainable. And ours is, if government is solely relying on what is getting from the federal government as allocation, then what happens if anything goes wrong in the federal government allocation? And we would like to emphasize on this, that we make money on all revenue, basically from all revenue. So if anything goes wrong, for instance, if there is peace in Ukraine,
yeah,
the oil revenue will drop.
That's true.
And if it drops, what comes to the states would also
drop,
trickle down and drop. Now, what happens to the state's expenses? What happens to the recurrent
and capital as well?
Capital expenses that had been budgeted for. How will Akwa Ibom State sustain itself over the years? I saw when you look at it, 86. Is it 86%?
86
dependency.
Yes, on
federal allocation.
Bayelsa State is actually 92.
That's the highest.
We are second to Bayelsa.
For Akwa Ibom State to come second is not a very good story.
Very terrible.
Now, we have a lot of avenues that we have been, of course, drawing tax from, where we are not exploring those areas.
What are those avenues?
Now, you may look at it that in Akwa Ibom State, I don't know how far the state has explored personal income tax from private businesses in Akwa Ibom State. Now, the personal income tax is very difficult to also drive in a state like this because of our cultural values in Akwa Ibom State.
Yes.
You find out that the practice, the culture of the people, the practice of government and the culture of the people, especially in this political era, it's so terrible. Let me give you an example. People were not supposed to do business around Akwa Ibom Road, entering Akwa Road, and government had come out to promise that they are going to take them out and even give a deadline to it.
Yes.
But they could not implement it. Now, what happens there is that those people that are selling by the roadside, if you were to place a fine on them, it would have been a source of revenue from government, for government, if they were to follow them up and place a fine. If you were to also try to correct these cultural abnormalities in our state, where people drive and park anywhere they like, you would also be generating revenue at the same time.
That reminds me,
correcting a social anomaly.
Lagos State makes hundreds of millions, almost billions,
from
millions
from traffic
issues.
Yes.
Yeah. So it makes so much money.
It is a source of
that runs
income
into billions over time
that government can take advantage of at in the moment.
Yes.
In the moment where we are having this cultural deficiency in our state. Now, that's a little on the tax side for the sake of time.
Yes.
Now, you go to the non-tax area, you talk about investment. You see how government channels its resources to what we may describe as elephant projects.
Not just elephant, white elephant.
Okay, the white elephant. The white elephant may not really come up, and no return on investment consideration.
That's right.
You just throw money at a project and wait. Examples abound in Akwa Ibom State where you have such investment. Now, still on that investment area, I heard you mention quality syrup.
Yes.
And it breaks my heart because I saw when the company started, and I know the investment of government in that area, and I know what it would have, what gains government would have made.
That's right. From
such areas. But of course, I also heard you say more than what? More than them.
The people that do you report to them, and they will give you counsel.
Government creates the industrial or the economic climate and wants to operate inside it and gets drowned inside the same climate that they would have created. The focus of government would have been to create an
enabling environment
for businesses to thrive. So you've not created this enabling environment. You also throw in your own business and get drowned in the course of.
Meanwhile, it's not their resources. those are the resources of the people.
Of course.
So what do we do? Because of we have some areas, very specific areas for 2025 budget, and that reminds me, Open Forum has been invited to the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly to do make our presentations at the public hearing for the 2025 appropriation bill, and trust us, we will represent you well by the grace of God. Now, in the budget for 2025, the IGR, proposed IGR, has been stepped up to 80 billion. That's going to be the highest ever. In fact, for the first time I heard, we made 43 billion was for 2023, which we had in 2024.
Yes.
The budget, the provision for now was 60 billion. I don't know what
it's been progressing in the past 5 years.
Good. Now, let's look at 80 billion. What are the avenues? I want to be very specific. What do you think are the avenues that can be tapped into where Akwa Ibom, looking at the fact that we receive trillions in FAC allocation? How are this money spent that they are unable to be taxed somewhere and the other? What can we do to exceed even the 80 billion naira projection by the Akwa Ibom Internal Revenue Service?
If we strengthen our cultural values in terms of, you see, this tax issue, there is a problem. If you create, government makes a policy on tax, how do they implement it? That's why I made a few examples in the past when we were talking about that. You have a way of tapping into the people and getting monies from them, but you've not created the enabling environment for the businesses to thrive. Secondly, you do not have the political will to implement these policies that you want to create.
The political will.
The political will.
You are right.
To implement these policies that you want to carry out. Now, when you find yourself in that situation, you think about the leadership and the political environment in Nigeria, that you go into government. From the first month you go into government, you begin to think about second term. So you don't want to hurt certain areas.
Very big
so
problem.
You cannot go and enforce collection of tax in certain areas. So how do you promote? How do you drive your tax revenue?
Let me tell you a personal experience.
Yeah.
Somebody was a council chairman, and we said, let's see how we can generate IGR. He said, from where? From the people that were supporters. So when you go for campaign, you say you are going to tax them.
Exactly.
And guess what? The next moment, the fellow went and did a illegal tax revenue, and he'll be collecting the money and putting it in his pocket direct, without approval of the council. So it's neither here nor there.
Citizen, you remember that the House of Assembly made a law in Akwa Ibom State against Edom, cow.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Streets. Have they been able to implement it?
No.
They can't enforce it because their interest is there. Those are the issues that we have at hand. In local government, you are not supposed to have fowls, goats,
stray
around,
yes.
around. But there is a law to it, but you've not been able to.
No, let's leave the problems now. I want us to look at the solutions. What areas? Look at the investments that we have. We have Ibom Air, and from what we've heard, nothing has come from Ibom Air into the treasury. We hear some of these monies, they go into reinvesting, but the money must get to the treasury first before it comes out to be reinvested.
It isn't just that you don't have a time. You know, I've put 3 or 4
I'm
areas
them.
of revenue that you should draw from.
Yeah.
That investment area, for instance, you just mentioned Ibom now. The way Ibom Air is structured is such that it should bring revenue to Akwa Ibom State, but it has latent values that it brings to Akwa Ibom State. It might not be manifestly that the financial value has started streaming into Akwa Ibom State.
Yes.
But when you think about the latent values of encouraging tourism, of encouraging businesses, of attracting foreign investors to Akwa Ibom State, don't forget that a way of also boosting our revenue is to market Akwa Ibom State.
Absolutely.
To bring in foreign investors to Akwa Ibom State. That is the way you can now have companies operating in the Akwa Ibom State, and you will be gaining from one form of tax or the other, especially the pay-as-you-earn system that comes through that.
Let's take it like a capsule. Assuming, I have a particular ailment, and just one capsule will be enough. What would you say that can be done in summary to be able to meet the 80 billion and possibly exceed it? We want to push this conversion to the point that we'll be able to push a memo to His Excellency to say, look at this area, look at that area, if we do this, look at our FAC allocations. How are these monies disbursed that we cannot even tax and get something reasonable? We should not be talking of 80 billion in 2024 when other states.
The summary of the first is the political will to
let's call it leadership will. I missed that. The political will is not the best. I believe in leadership will.
Leadership will,
yes,
to drive your policies.
Good.
In the investment area, in summary, ensure that you have the competent people in place.
Absolutely.
Let people not be influenced by political reasons to employ people into positions to run government investments or government companies.
Remember,
state-owned enterprises.
Remember the quotes from Abiola? It said, "Small people reduce the office they hold to their stature."
So that's key. That competency level is key. You introduced me as an Organisational Development Consultant, but I tell you, you must have a strong human resources background to be able to know what productivity, what performance is in an organization, and all is rested in the human capital that you drive. So if you promote sufficiently the human capital and you are fair enough to ensure that you get the right people into the right positions, then you will drive. I hear people complain about companies in Akwa Ibom, the times and all that. It's not true. If you have the right people, there are businesses that are running elsewhere.
As an organization development expert, you believe Akwa Ibom can meet the 80 billion 2025 IGR target or exceed it?
Certainly they can meet. We have all the resources in Akwa Ibom State to do so and exceed.
Beautiful.
We even have the human capital to do so.
More than.
We have the resources, we have the human capital, we have enabling, we have the environment, not infrastructure. We are talking about environment, so natural environment. We have farmlands, we have a lot in Akwa Ibom State.
Forum with Citizen MKO. I'm hosting a very brilliant, fine-looking Mr. Marvel Essien, an Organizational Development Expert, who has assured us that with the leadership wheel and putting square pegs in square holes and avoiding what MK Abiola said, that small people in big offices, they reduce the office to their level. That will be crisis. He has said that Akwa Ibom has the capacity to meet and exceed the 2025 IGR, because we want to see how Akwa Ibom will survive without oil.
Yeah.
And we cannot open the phone lines until you just, in 2 minutes, please. The tax reform bill that Mr. President Tinubu had brought, and I love the conversation that is trending. Let's not go to the details. People have talked about it. What are the merits and what are the demerits of the tax reform bill at the National Assembly?
I will talk about the merits of the tax reform bill.
Okay.
I will not talk about the demerits because it only needs tinkering, a little bit of amendments here and there.
I love this angle.
That you begin to say that
we will need callers then. Please give us the merits, maybe just 2, 3 of them.
Imagine small companies being encouraged, not paying tax.
Yes.
Imagine 90% of workers not paying tax.
Yes.
90% from, if you know the proposal is 800,000 and below. How many people are earning 800,000 above?
How many? How many?
I mean, so there are about 90 people, 90%
That's
that
right.
will be benefiting from this. I hear people talk about price of goods and services increasing. It is not true, because there are about 500 food items exempted from this tax. We have reduced. The proposal has reduced tax from about 60. You heard about the multiple taxes and all that, to less than 10. So where is the demerits? It's just a tinker here and there. Maybe they talk about the derivation.
Derivation.
I wish you have time. I would have spoken about
No. Somebody needs to hear
a derivation
principle.
Is such that it will encourage industrialization. The derivation is such that you see, if that's what we have been yearning for, let people begin to look at their areas of comparative advantage.
Absolutely.
And begin to produce, become more productive. That is what the derivation is simply saying.
What do you say? Derivation will encourage what?
Industrialization.
Industrialization.
To make people become more productive in their own state. So if you are aspiring to end the 60% of the derivation, then you will be more productive.
One question before the phone line is open, no matter how brief. There is this fear that centralization of tax will impact federalism practice negatively. What is your thinking? Why must federal government control everything, and including taxes? Will it affect the practice of federalism or not?
No, it will not affect the practice of federalism.
The practice
in no way. It will not affect in any way. It only helps. You see, this administrative cost will be saved, and of course, those things that I wish I have the time to explain what
we will do this. We will do this on a podcast. That is why you need to go to Open Forum with Citizen MKO, follow, like the page, and then very soon we are coming on. We are already on YouTube, but we are going to build it because some of our people that watch us from outside, they are not on Facebook. And they say, please be on YouTube. We cannot do live streaming now on YouTube because we've not built that platform. We're going to do that. And if you want to support us, it's very good that you just follow us.